Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Washington Commanders fell apart against the Eagles. The top two teams in the AFC face off Sunday, and the Chicago Bears are rotten to the core. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
It was not the most aesthetically pleasing first half on Thursday night in an NFC showdown between the Eagles and the Commanders. Philadelphia woke up in the second half, the fourth quarter in particular, 20 in the fourth to earn themselves a 26-18 win. Yes, it was exactly as weird as the score indicates on Thursday night. Gino Camilleri from Locked On Eagles joins me now. And Gino, this is a little bit indicative of how the Eagles have been this year. Started off finding their footing, and then they just become this boa constrictor. They squeeze the life out of you.
They almost play football the way that Floyd Mayweather used to box, where it wasn't Mike Tyson, right? Like, you're not going to land these knockout punches in the first round.
Timely.
But the story is very timely. The defense, they are a defensive boxing team that they might take a body blow, but they're going to get off the field. Then they're going to get off the field again. Then they're going to get off the field again and give you a fighter's chance. Like, they're going to remain covered up. They're not going to allow you to get the chin. And then it's your patented Saquon Barkley run, which happens to come every single week at this point. You get two of them in the fourth quarter. This team has finished games the way that championship caliber teams have to finish games. And the story of 2023 was ultimately failing to finish in that season, where you started out really hot and you wavered. This team couldn't start out hot if their pants were on fire and they had red ants in said pants. They just can't do it. It's something that's never going to happen. They continue to just fail to score on their first drive. The first quarter, even the first half, was horrific in terms of the offense, but they just continue to play fundamentally sound football. And Jalen Hurts, once again, takes care of the football and doesn't make any boneheaded mistakes. And when you can run the ball with Saquon Barkley that well, teams are not going to be able to play defense for 60 minutes. Like, let's just be honest. And that's exactly what happened. Hats off to the Commanders for being able to stay in it for that long. I mean, you made the Eagles offense look horrific for a majority of it. But Vic Fangio really is the big winner of this whole thing, man. Since the bye week, he has got this defense turned around. This truly feels like the Eagles team I grew up on, the early 2000s. Jim Johnson, we're going to get to the quarterback. We're going to fit the run really well. We're going to allow minimal explosive plays, and we're going to give our offense a chance because it's bend, don't break. And the biggest drive, arguably, is when the game is on the line and Washington still has a chance. It's 2nd and 1 in the red zone, and the Eagles are able to get off the field on a turnover on downs. 2nd and 1. Yeah. They stopped the run multiple times and are able to get off the field in a big spot. That's a drive that will give you momentum moving forward. And then you sneak in that Reed Blankenship interception, and then everything, those body blows that you were covering up, well, you can only take so many of them. They got that kidney shot, man, and the Commanders went down after a while, and they battled too. That's a team that you're going to see again. You got to be more locked in the next time you see them. But to come out on Thursday night, you have 9 days rest until you go and play the Rams. 6 wins in a row. You're still keeping pace with Detroit. That's what you needed to do tonight.
You mentioned this was a Vic Fangio performance, and there's no doubt about it. This will give you a little, but not a lot. That is a staple of the Vic Fangio system here. But we have to give, and I am loath to do this, but we have to give Howie Roseman his flowers for this offseason. You bring in Zach Bond and transform his career. And then in the draft, you go get Cooper DeJean and you get Quinyon Mitchell. They have transformed this defense.
Terry McLaurin has been the Grim Reaper for the Eagles over the last few years. Terry. And I said to David Harrison that for the first time in years, the Eagles might have somebody that can cover Terry McLaurin. Where was he? Where was Terry McLaurin tonight? Where were their wide receivers?
On my fantasy team, that's where he was, Gino.
Yeah, and they were limited, and that's huge. And Howie Roseman, a huge testament to be proactive and say, we have to go get not just one defensive back, but 2 defensive rookie of the year caliber defensive backs that have completely reinvigorated this defense. Bringing in Zach Bond was an unbelievable signing. Vic Fangio to see that this guy who's more of an overhang, hey, maybe he's better off playing middle linebacker, makes play after play after play. And you look at Reed Blankenship was an undrafted free agent. And then you bring Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back, who is the heartbeat of that defense. But up front too, drafting Jalen Carter when nobody else wanted to take him for some reason. He's just unbelievable. And Jordan Davis has been the reason that they're able to allow their linebackers to play so free on the backside. And Nolan Smith is figuring it out. The youth is the movement in the National Football League. I think you see that with Green Bay, right? One of the younger teams, and you're able to at least run and keep up, like just your endurance. Like the older players are going to get worn down a lot quicker than younger players will, right? And they figured it out on defense. The offense, though, that's where you got to smooth things out. But if you could walk away with 26 points, 7 of which were left on the field by Jake Elliott, who don't know what happened to this guy. He's fallen
also
off
on my fantasy
cliff.
team. So it was a banner day for my fantasy team.
It was brutal, but this one, prime time, the Eagles have had some trouble in those spots. But to do it in a divisional game, and Jaden Daniels, for everything he has done this year, the Eagles kept him at bay as much as you possibly could tonight.
You can stay up to date all year on the Philadelphia Eagles by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Eagles on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, will the Chiefs take their first loss of the season on Sunday? Before we get to that, the Steelers and Ravens battle for AFC North supremacy. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and they'll get $150 in bonus bets if they win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be on the Buffalo Bills laying 2.5 at home against the undefeated Chiefs this Sunday, or just bet on Patrick Mahomes when he's the underdog. He always wins. Or you could take a look at the Ravens Steelers, where Pittsburgh is a 3-point home dog. The Ravens averaging almost 31 points a game on the road this season, and their total point total 26.5. Just food for thought. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. One of the most physical and heated rivalries in the NFL could have a little extra juice this weekend. The Steelers and Ravens are more intertwined than you might think.
This one is the biggest one. This is essentially battle for first place in the AFC North as it stands right now. Pittsburgh coming in 7-2, Baltimore 7-3, and you have a lot on the line here. And we talk about this rivalry all the time. I know that over recent years, some people have said, "Oh, it's lost some of that intensity, lost some of that rivalry shine." But man, we got a lot of quotes this week from both sides that maybe it's juicing up this rivalry once again here.
It certainly is. And you're right. I think part of it was like both teams had their successes. So like the Ravens were Super Bowl champions, and they kind of like there was a mutual respect there, and the hatred of the Ray Lewis days and Ed Reed and Hines Ward, those kind of went to the wayside. They still don't like each other, but they don't hate each other nearly as much. But oh boy, did some stuff get said in the Steelers locker room on Wednesday. Patrick Queen saying on his being let go from Baltimore, he said, quote, "I wasn't wanted back. I didn't get the offer back. It was definitely kind of upsetting, being there for 4 years and the bond that you grow with your teammates." He said, "You put your body on the line every single time that you go out there, even when you can barely move your leg or whatever the injury may have been. So I definitely feel a certain type of way after the whole situation, but I'm over it now." Doesn't sound like he is, Kevin. Sounds like he has a lot to say there. Patrick Queen was a guy that, just last year he had some, thoughtful words about the Steelers-Ravens rivalry, and now he's on the other side of it. And Kevin, it seems interesting to me. You got him saying that, Deshaun Elliott going on Marlon Humphrey's podcast calling the Dolphins soft, Arthur Marlette talking. There's a lot of interesting bars being thrown around right now.
The San Francisco 49ers look to lay the boom on the Seahawks.
Yeah, stop the run for them, but definitely have a good run game for the 49ers. One of the biggest things you want to do, right? And if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm a play caller, I want to be in control of how I dictate things going. When a team is able to keep you off balance, it is extremely difficult to call plays. Whether you're calling a high school football game, an NFL game, heck, even on Madden, you're playing against somebody, but he keeps you off balance because he's doing this, doing that. And it's like, gosh, I don't know. How do I call plays against this guy? I need to run man, but then he's doing this. The 49ers need to be able to keep them off balance. And I think that starts with definitely getting a run game going. Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers did not run the ball well last game. And luckily, they were able to use the short passing game to the running back as an extension of the run game. But you can't rely on that either. So for the 49ers, hey, let's simplify a little bit and be able to run the ball. Let's get a good yards per carry. Maybe switch it up. Maybe use some Christian McCaffrey. And while he's still getting his feet wet and back in the swing of things, maybe you could use a little bit of a change of pace with a guy like Jordan Mason. And then another change of pace with a guy like Isaac Guerrero. Utilize all three of your backs because they're all so different, all unique. I think they all bring a unique skill set that continues to keep teams off balance.
The Georgia Bulldogs desperately need a win over Tennessee this weekend to keep their college football playoff hopes alive.
I just look at this like Georgia can't take 3 losses already. My goodness, all this talk of Kirby Smart and dynasty and all this it comes crashing down if you lose this one.
Yeah, these are the recipes that everybody looks for. It's Kirby at home. It's been something like 89 days since we've had a home game, I think, for Georgia. It's been a hot minute, guys. We've been on the road so much, even neutral site games. To have a game at home, big atmosphere. Tennessee coming into Athens has historically not performed well. Kirby Smart knows the Heupel system. He knows what to do with it. I think this is a get-right game. It's going to be interesting. We have tons of injuries still. The offensive line, I've said Tennessee has one of the best front sevens in the entire SEC. I still stand by that. They're incredible. I'm not going to say best defensive line because that tip of the cap to Ole Miss. I saw it up close and personal, and that thing is the buzzsaw that Stephen Willis warned me about, and it hurts. But the best front seven is still Tennessee, so I think they're going to keep it in the game. But this is a Kirby Smart special. This is a get-right game. The defense is going to be on point. Pin the ear back, coming down here, hair on fire in Athens against Tennessee. It's going to be, I think it's going to cover the spread. Whatever it winds up being, 8.5, I think it's going to come back down that. I think it's going to be cover the spread.
The Buffalo Bills host the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday in one of the most anticipated matchups of the entire NFL season. Our Locked On Bills and Locked On Chiefs hosts discuss this heavyweight matchup. The one that's not on Netflix tonight.
I'm Joe Marino, host of Locked On Bills, joined by Chris Clark and Ryan Tracy of Locked On Chiefs, getting you ready for Week 11 Bills Chiefs, the 9-0 Kansas City Chiefs coming to Buffalo to face the 8-2 Buffalo Bills. Gentlemen, if the Kansas City Chiefs are going to snap the Bills' 3-game regular season win streak against the Kansas City Chiefs, which has not mattered an ounce in the playoffs, what's got to go right for Kansas City in this one?
For me, they have to continue to take care of the ball. Patrick Mahomes has been a lot better the past couple of weeks taking care of the ball. If he doesn't turn the ball over, it helps their chances. And you mentioned this earlier, and this is one of the big things in this game. The Chiefs lead the league or are very high in the league at 10-plus play drives. That wears a defense down. That wears a team down. And if they can continue to take care of the ball and have those type of sustained drives, Kansas City should be able to put themselves in the driver's seat to win this game.
I think that's a good talking point. The Bills very good at taking away the football. 18% of drives against the Bills defense end in a takeaway. The Bills have had multiple takeaways in all but 3 games this year. They've had a takeaway in every game. They've had a takeaway in 12 straight dating back to last season. So obviously I think that's going to be a big part of the equation here, and it's part of mine as well. I have 3 things written down for the Bills to have success and win this game, and taking care of the football matters quite a bit. And I think when you go back to the last 3 meetings between these two teams, the 3 meetings since 13 seconds where, obviously the fireworks happened at the end of that game, These hadn't been high-scoring affairs, guys. The highest point total scored by any team over the last 3 has been 27. These have typically been low 20s games, 20-17, 20-23, 24-20 type games. And so you got to make sure that every drive ends in a kick, either a punt, a field goal, or an extra point. You can't be giving away possessions. They matter so much in these types of games. And so, yeah, I think for the Bills, I'll match you. I'll say of equal importance for them to take care of the football. They've done well with that. The Bills have only given the ball away 6 times this year. And I guess 4 of those have come in the last 3 games. So that's picked up a little bit on, honestly, some goofy interceptions. So that taking care of the football, big one for both sides here.
Goofy's a great way to put it. So I know how I would go in and attack this particular team, but if we're doing the post-game show, Joe, and we're dealing with the Chiefs did break that snap, how would you break it down? What did they do to beat the Bills this time that maybe they haven't done in the past?
What did Kansas City do to beat the Bills? I mean, Kansas City, I don't, that's the thing about Kansas City. They're not game script dependent. They can win games all kinds of different ways, whatever it takes, right? They did great study and figured out how to block a kick at the end of the game to win. They need Patrick Mahomes to go have a game-winning drive. He's done that 4 times this year. They need to stop on defense. They can get it. So I think that's the beauty of a team like Kansas City, and I think other top teams like I would say Buffalo as well. They're not game script dependent. It doesn't have to go a certain way. You look at a team like Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's a good football team, but it has to go a certain way for them to win. There's a script. They're game script dependent. I don't think either of these teams are game script dependent. I think that they can find ways to win games no matter what. And I think obviously the Chiefs are the greatest example of that in the NFL, not only this year, but really since 2018.
You know, when I look at this game, you talk about how these have been low scoring games. Kansas City, I think, has something like over 20 games where they haven't allowed more than 24 points, I think, or 27 points. So I do think that continues in this game. So to me, it's, can you get Allen into 3rd down situations where you can actually rush the passer? I'm not talking 3rd and shorts. I'm talking, keep him in, 3rd 5, 3rd 6 and beyond that. Because if you can actually get after the quarterback and force him to get into those 3rd down scenarios, it takes away the legs a little bit. I understand it's not going to take him away completely, but at least it takes it away a little bit easier than, a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3 where he doesn't have to do much with his legs to go get that first down.
Stay up to date on the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Bills, and Locked On Chiefs on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Chicago Bears locker room is not in a great place right now. The Chicago Bears might be rotten to the core. I recently discussed Caleb Williams' relationship with his offensive line on our NFC Squad show, and what we're finding is kind of scary for the Bears long term. Like, did anyone?
That's true. Yeah,
the Patriots would absolutely put it on the Chicago Bears the way that they did. Yeah. Caleb, for whatever glee I take in what has happened over the last month, it was pretty shocking to watch some of the misses, just like basic top of the drop, back foot ball out, and it's like not even close. He is, I think, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league and on target percentage, depending on who charts these things. The worst deep ball thrower in the league this season, despite the fact that they are one of the most deep ball heavy teams in the league this season. Nothing makes sense there. They fired their offensive coordinator, but then we get the reporting that there were players that went to Matt Eberflus and said we should bench Caleb Williams for Tyson Bagent.
Insane.
Like, that's happening. That's crazy. And I think that is a good thing for us to remember, that the locker room can be a weird place and things can happen behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. And maybe it is the case that some of the concerns, let's call them, about Caleb Williams and the way that other players would react to his personality, the demands his dad is making through the media, would have a ripple effect. Because Ali Connolly from the Read Optional did a breakdown of this. He posted screen grabs of like the 9 sacks or hits from Caleb Williams. You don't see offensive linemen going over to help him up. You don't see his tight end coming over to help him up. Guys walking past him on the ground. That is a big yikes. And if that's happening already, that seems bad. That seems bad. And this is not a team that was ready for a Super Bowl. And the offensive line sucks. So
yeah, it's terrible.
you can't be bad and then mad at someone else who's also bad. Like that speaks to me to a team right now that is rotten at the core, which, you hate to see it. And finally, Mike Tyson still has that dog in him. On Thursday afternoon, Tyson slapped his upcoming opponent, Jake Paul, during their weigh-in. Tyson will face off against Paul later on tonight in his first professional fight since 2005. It seems like Tyson pulled the jab just a little. I think I speak for everyone when I say this. I hope he doesn't pull any punches tonight. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, did Josh Allen get the job done against Patrick Mahomes? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.